Good morning and welcome along to our SuperValu Community Includes Everyone event coming to you live from Croke Park. Now, we would very much like to have all of you here with us this morning, but like pretty much everything from the last 16 to 18 months, that obviously isn't possible. But wherever you're joining us from, it's just so good to have you with us virtually. Now, as the name suggests, this morning is all about diversity and inclusion, and particularly about increasing participation in the GAA for those from all backgrounds, regardless of ethnicity, gender, ability, sexual orientation. If you're going to be tweeting about this today, we'd like you to use the hashtag #BringItOn, and if you have any queries, please send them to supervalu@drury.ie. Now, we have a really strong lineup of speakers for you today, including a short panel discussion at the end with 3 people very heavily involved in the GAA, but in different aspects and coming from different backgrounds. But we have a strong lineup to get to before that, so let's start with our first speaker of the day. That's the Marketing Director of SuperValu, Ray Kelly.
Thanks, Joanne. I'm delighted to be here today to announce SuperValu's 12th year of sponsoring the All-Ireland Football Championship and our joint campaign to drive more diverse, inclusive clubs and communities. I'm a big fan of the GAA. Their values of community, of respect, inclusiveness are absolutely aligned with ours in Musgrave and in SuperValu. And that's why we've been here for the long term. So this year, I'm particularly excited to outline SuperValu's ambition to support and build inclusive communities through the sponsorship. So why SuperValu? Why the GAA? And why diversity and inclusion? For us in SuperValu, it's a no-brainer. We're a community-based retailer. Community is at the core of our brand. It's based on what we do, and we've been doing it for the last 40 years. Our stores are locally owned, and our retailers take great pride in making their communities better for everyone. For me personally, I'm deeply passionate about community, and I'm very aware of the power that we have to do good and make communities even better places to live. Now, the overwhelming majority of us believe that a diverse society is a better society. Now, our research shows us that prejudice, unconscious bias, and at times discrimination are the key barriers for realizing our goal of making our communities more inclusive and representative of modern Ireland. We'll hear today from speakers and panelists about the power of diversity and inclusion for all. Their stories and research are both compelling and inspiring. And we'll see how sport provides a unique and fantastic pathway to help us to become a more inclusive society. In most communities, we see that the GAA brings people together, breaking down barriers and building communities. So working with the GAA, SuperValu has devised this campaign to start real conversations in communities about the power of diverse and inclusive communities. Now, we know that communities are at their very best when everyone's involved. And we're starting from a very positive place here. Our research has shown us that 77% of us believe that our clubs give equal opportunities for participation and improvement for everyone, regardless of backgrounds, gender, disability, sexual orientation, or ethnicity. In fact, 79% of us believe that we can bring our whole selves to our clubs regardless of any of the above backdrops. That's really encouraging, but our ambition needs to be bigger and stronger. Our mission is to ensure that everybody is included, respected, and accepted. So bring it on. This is our powerful inclusivity campaign, which will drive awareness and understanding that a diverse community is a better community. In a recent survey we carried out, 2/3 of respondents believe that if the local GAA club is more diverse and inclusive, then it will improve diversity and inclusion within the entire community. Another figure from our research that I think is worth highlighting: 47% of us feel that we're lacking role models from diverse communities. So today we're opening a conversation with many powerful advocates, all role models and real people with a positive message of diversity. I'm honoured to say we're joined today by Boyd Osea, a Westmeath cornerback who will talk about what the GAA means to him, Joanna Reardon, activist and sport journalist, along with Sandra Healy from DCU, Dermot Tavish with the GAA, and David Goff, All-Ireland referee and LGBT activist. And there's a real truism in the saying, If you can see it, you can be it, highlighting the importance of role models. And that's where we come in. As one of the key supporters of communities on the ground in Ireland, we have a big role to play in our support of diversity and inclusion in sport and in our communities. A key tenet of our approach is creating honest conversations. As communities, we need to have further and regular dialogue on our progress and honest feedback where barriers remain, as well as discussions about how these barriers can be eliminated. So collectively, we can be the change we want to see in the world. And we in SuperValu are behind this with real long-term support. We're committed to making our communities better. 12 years in partnership with the GAA, 30 years working with and sponsoring Tidy Towns, and the past 4 years we've partnered with As I Am to build more inclusive communities. And we're going to hear from Adam Harris shortly, and we're immensely proud to work alongside them, and they've taught us an awful lot. We've learned that we need to move beyond awareness to understanding, and that understanding is actually the key to making change. And that is what this campaign is about, to drive conversations, awareness, and understanding. So today, SuperValu, together with the GAA, announced their commitment to increase participation amongst people from diverse backgrounds in GAA clubs by 30% by 2025. We'll raise awareness and understanding of the power of diversity. We'll highlight the role models and encourage participation and membership of diverse groups to the GAA through our communication platforms, our work with the GAA, As I Am, and many others. So let's bring it on. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. That is some ambition, isn't it, to raise it by 30%, which is a huge amount in such a short space of time. But hopefully he'll get plenty of backing along the way from everybody involved in the GAA. And now we move on to somebody who works in the area of diversity and inclusion on a daily basis. She is the CEO of Inclusio, and she is also a founding member of the Centre of Excellence for Diversity and Inclusion in Dublin City University. And she is Sandra Healy.
Thank you, Joanne. And firstly, I'd just like to say I'm absolutely delighted to be here this morning supporting this campaign by the GAA and SuperValu. And I'd like to start by just taking a few moments to talk about why inclusion is the responsibility of everyone in our society and not something that relates to other people. We are all already diverse. And I'm often asked, what is my definition of diversity and inclusion? And for me, diversity is the recognition that each one of us is individually different. And inclusion is when we are accepted and included regardless of our difference. But doesn't that sound simple? And I think if it was easy to do, we probably wouldn't be here today. The reality is our brains are pattern matching machines. You know, I often describe that as people like themselves. And often we hear the saying, birds of a feather flock together. So we like to be around people who are like us. We like to hang out with people who are like us. We like to play sports with people who are like us. But what happens when a human who appears different turns up? They might have a different skin color. They might have a different ability. They might sound different, speak a different language, believe in different things, come from a different place. They might live in different kinds of homes. They might come from different backgrounds, like different things, or have a different sexuality. They might even look different, or even be of a different gender. The reality is we are all already diverse. But we're conditioned to make what is often split-second decisions about what we think is right or wrong, good or bad, desirable, undesirable, acceptable or unacceptable. And as a result, we can intentionally or unintentionally exclude. And this is often driven by the fear of being excluded ourselves. Now, let's take a moment just to look at the context of Ireland. So based on the latest stats, we have the youngest population in the EU, with 1 in 3 people now under the age of 25 in Ireland. And we're not a country preparing for diversity, we are already diverse. Over the past 2 decades, we have become one of the most diverse countries in Europe, with over 17% of our resident population born in another country. And 1 in 8 people in Ireland today is from a migrant background, and they originate from over 200 different nations across the globe. Ireland is diverse, and if we're not being proactive, recognising and celebrating this diversity, there's a danger we'll walk into segregation and tension, which we've seen happen in many other countries across the globe. We know from research that positive social contact with people from different cultures, backgrounds, ethnicities, people who are different from us, is associated with more positive attitudes and leads to greater acceptance. We're a young, multicultural society, and we have a great opportunity to get it right, but it's going to take every single one of us. So ask yourself, how can I create opportunities for this to happen? On the 22nd of May in 2015, we voted, and it was described as a social revolution that was welcomed around the world. We became the first country to legalise same-sex marriage, allowing our LGBT+ citizens the right to marry the person they choose to. But the global divide on homosexuality still persists, and despite major changes in laws and norms, the rights of LGBT people around the world, there's still some challenges. And unfortunately, in Ireland, research that's just been published there by Belong To in 2021 showed that more than half of our LGBT young people said they do not feel fully accepted in their homes or their community environment. This rejection, feeling unaccepted, and a denial of identity can result in loneliness, stress, anxiety, and more complex mental health challenges. And as a result, their research found that 63% of LGBT young people in Ireland today are struggling with suicide ideation. 1 in 2 are struggling with self-harm, and more than 1 in 2 describe their mental health as bad or very bad. We cannot just accept this as this is okay in 2021. Everywhere you go, there are people who are afraid to get on a bus, walk down the street, or express themselves, said a young man from Drogheda as he spoke to the Taoiseach recently. He was sharing his experiences of everyday homophobia as he went about his life. He said he has been called the F word, a queer, a gay, a fairy. It's as though I am some object that is of lesser importance to them, he said. We are a society, we need to learn more, and if we're not openly discussing, valuing all kinds of relationships, how can we stop intolerance and discrimination? And where are our young people learning to exclude? Research from University College Cork showed that the school environment was found to be both heterosexist and homophobic, with verbal name-calling presenting as a chronic problem. The views expressed by the teachers in the research said that this appeared to be rooted in the belief that heterosexual was the norm and anything outside that was considered abnormal or wrong, and this leads to exclusion. Exclusion is absolutely devastating for us as humans. We're social animals, we need social acceptance, and the feelings of love and belonging are so important to us. Research in neuroscience recently has shown us that the pain of social exclusion is experienced in our brains exactly the same as physical pain. Each one of us have a responsibility to step up, break the conditioning, and change this for our society. I was watching a TED Talk recently by the founder of Girls Who Code, and she said, "We teach our boys to be brave and our girls to be perfect." She talked about how most girls today are taught about to avoid failure and risk, to smile pretty, play it safe, and get all A's. Where boys, on the other hand, are taught to play rough, swing high, crawl to the top of the monkey bars, and then jump off head first. She says that men are habituated to taking risk after risk, and they're rewarded for it. For girls, we have to begin to undo this socialization of perfection. We have to let girls know that they are not alone and that together we are focused on fixing the broken system that creates this environment that they are born into. When we teach girls to be brave, we help create supportive networks. Cheering them on, they will build incredible things. So ask yourself, how can I create opportunities for this to happen? Joe Ehrman, a former NFL defense lineman, said there's 2 kinds of coaches. You're either transactional or transformational. And when he talked about a transformational coach, he said transformational coaches understand the power, the platform, the position they have in the lives of young people. And they're going to use that to change the arc of every young person's life. And he said sport doesn't build character unless the coach models it, nurtures it, and teaches it. And SuperValu, together with the GAA, are being transformational. Their commitment to increasing participation and diversity by 30% by 2025 through their Bring It On campaign is an example of leading the way. Their research has showed that 85% of people would like to see more players from diverse backgrounds on their inter-county teams. SuperValu is using their power, their platform and their position for social good and transformational change. A commitment to visible role models, representation and amplifying the voices of the underrepresented is the way forward. We know this. We have seen this drive the change we want in our workplaces today in Ireland. The first priority is to prepare our sports clubs, our managers, our coaches and our volunteers with the guidance, practices and understanding on promoting respect and inclusivity and stepping up. Equipping them with the understanding, knowledge and skills required to promote and lead inclusively and to contribute to an integrated society with respect for all and recognition for the diversity that is our Ireland. We need more organisations to follow SuperValu's lead and be part of this change. We are all already diverse and individually different. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sandra, with some quite frankly frightening statistics there, and stats that relate obviously to society in general. But we're hearing quite a bit over the last few years about the work that's been going on in the GAA in relation to this. So let's get an insight into that from their Diversity and Inclusion Officer, Jerry McTavish.
Thanks very much, Joanne. Thanks for being here today, everybody. You're all very welcome. So Kate Mila Falta from ourselves here in Croke Park. And thank you so much for having this opportunity and spend the day with us today. I would like to talk about diversity and inclusion currently in the GAA. We have it begins at the club and we've over 1,620 clubs around Ireland. We also have 450 clubs overseas, and diversity and inclusion is spread out between all those clubs. Our values are embedded in a lot of those clubs, and our values is about community, it's about amateur status, it's about inclusiveness, respect, it's also about teamwork and volunteerism. And there are key values that we've continued to develop and continue to progress during the years. I speak about inclusion as means people having a sense of belonging. Where we all belong is one of our GAA mottos, Tá áit dúna ligeán. And it's being comfortable in being part of something that we value. Diversity means being aware or accommodating and celebrating difference. We are all different, we are all unique. Being truly inclusive is living our GAA motto. We have pride in our own identity, our own cultures, but we also are very, very open to other nationalities, other ethnic backgrounds, sexual orientation, different age demographics. If you look at the GAA, you start at 5 years old and you go up to 105 if we're very lucky to still be there. And that's the age demographics we cover, and that's what we are in our communities, day in, day out. It's the people that we talk to every day, it's the people we meet on the road, it's the people who come in and out of our lives. And I talk about two things that my mother would have constantly said to me over the years. And those two things I value. And one of them is, ní bhfaighde leithid an ríist. That means that you are unique. There will never be another Jerry McTavish. There will never be another you. And you are unique in your values, in what you believe in, but you're also open to other people. You're proud of your identity, but you're also very much open and respectful to other people. The second one is cuma céir a dhéanann saon den eile, bí sása leat féin agus tá aird de chláin. So that translated, it means don't mind what others do or do to you, but be happy with yourself and take care of your family. And that's what I think when I think of the GAA, your community, your family, everybody goes down to the GAA club. And that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about the diversity in ourselves, in our ages, in our nationalities, and bringing that all to the GAA club. I'd like to talk a little bit about what we're currently doing in diversity and inclusion. We would have many sports programs, wheelchair hurling and camogie. We also have football for all. These are inter-county competitions, and then we have an All-Ireland final here in Croke Park on All-Ireland final day, very similar to Coming in Montskull. We also have inclusive camps, all-star programs, and Fun and Run. The Fun and Run is an adaptive program of rounders for all abilities, and everyone can play this game. When we talk about other programs that we have in the GAA, we have inclusive programs, but we also have disability programs as well. We try to take the whole community together. We also have intercultural activities. We also have the National Inclusion Fitness Day that takes place every September to tie in with European Week of Sport. And that National Fitness Inclusion Day means that the whole community comes down to the GAA Club, Lán na Globana. That's a new version of Lán na Globana. And just to finish off, I'd like to talk about where we all belong, Tá áit an dún na ligeán. We reach around the world. We reach in different societies, different countries, but we do have that identity, and we are fully committed to continue on the principles of inclusion and diversity. And we hope you will come on board and work with us in these areas and try to be more open, more accepting. But one of our most important programs that we've rolled out for many, many years was Give Respect, Get Respect. It's a sporting program through the GAA where we continue to push our values and we continue to support you at club level. You're the most important person to us. So we'd like to say to SuperValu, thank you so much for this campaign. Let's bring it on, people. Thank you.
Thank you, Ger, and the best of luck with all the work you have ahead of you in the next few years. Now, as Ray mentioned a little bit earlier, SuperValu have over 100 autism-friendly stores throughout the country, and about 4 years ago they linked up with the autism charity As I Am. So to give us a little look at the various barriers that still exist for those within the autism community in terms of inclusion is the CEO of As I Am, Adam Harris.
Good morning. I want to begin by thanking SuperValu and the GAA for inviting me here today and for taking the next step on the journey towards true inclusion. To be honest, I don't know if I'm more excited this morning to see the launch of this incredible initiative or to be in a real-life venue with actual people. I'm the founder and CEO of As I Am, Ireland's national autism charity. I set up this charity 7 years ago when I finished school because I wanted to educate the community about the barriers that existed for autistic people in Ireland. Barriers which I had experienced firsthand as somebody who grew up as an autistic person in Ireland. Today we're a team of nearly 20, half of whom are autistic, providing both support to autistic people and their families and education and training to wider society. Our vision is a society in which everyone is accepted as they are and has the opportunity to fully participate in every aspect of the community. For over 4 years now, our organisation has been proud to partner with SuperValu to work to create inclusive communities in store and across Irish life. This partnership has acted as a jet fuel for our organisation, creating an opportunity for us to start a dialogue with the wider community, a space for us to demonstrate inclusion in practice and resources to practically support the autism community, particularly during this pandemic, which has created unprecedented challenges for our community who often rely on structure and routine. Today's event is incredibly exciting as it builds on this work. Whilst the campaign being launched this morning touches on a wide range of diversity issues, I think all of us who work in this space will acknowledge that so many of the barriers are shared. A lack of accessibility, stigma, not feeling understood or welcome, not knowing where to start to get involved. Too often, those of us working to change these realities can be in echo chambers, talking to ourselves. We need to actively find channels and platforms to talk to those who have never had to think about difference in the same way or to the same extent. SuperValu has enabled As I Am to do this, and I cannot think of a more central or vital national institution to help open up that conversation further than the GAA. There's a well-known quote in D&I circles: diversity is being invited to the party, whilst inclusion is being asked to dance. Put simply, we too often mix up inclusion with simply not excluding. If that's the barometer of success, we've already on paper made great progress. To just look at my community, in a short 20 years, we've gone from autism being seen as something rare, from being seen as people who ought to be segregated in society, to a point where now 86% of children on the autism spectrum attend mainstream school. However, this is really only a start. Bullying, unemployment, loneliness remain daily barriers for many autistic people. If we're serious about inclusion, we must work together to remove the barriers so everyone is truly included on an equitable basis. To borrow a line from our recent Autism Awareness Month campaign, which was sponsored by SuperValu, we need to move beyond awareness towards true acceptance and affirmation of all forms of diversity. Change can be scary, but in the words of RFK, the journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. Very often, small changes in communities can be the difference between someone left behind and struggling or included and thriving. Changes like showing a person an image of what to expect when they go to their club for the first time, like having somewhere quiet to go if a person feels stressed or overwhelmed, like not staring when we see someone who's acting a little bit differently to us. These changes might sound simple, but they go a long way. Their absence is often the main reason why an autistic person may not go to their local club on match day. What is most amazing is that they also cost next to nothing and can't but be good for everybody. Who wouldn't want to know what to expect, to be in a calm environment, to feel respected? By making changes for the few, we truly benefit the many. Our partnership with SuperValu has enabled us to bring this conversation to main streets across Ireland. Our partnership with SuperValu has enabled us to bring this conversation to main streets across Ireland. This partnership can bring acceptance and respect to the heart of communities. If people are accepted in their GAA club, they will be accepted in their school or workplace. They won't need to be isolated or alone, and can bring our own unique strengths and perspectives on the world to the benefit of the whole club community. There are already wonderful examples of such practice across the country. I'm thinking of Clonakilty GAA Club, which is part of the As I Am SuperValu Autism Friendly Towns initiative. I'm thinking of the Cara Centre for Inclusive Sport in I3 Tralee, which is part funded by this association and has developed a specific training course to support coaches in better understanding and meeting the needs of autistic people. I'm also thinking of the incredible Kevin Hanley, featured in this powerful campaign, whose story demonstrates firsthand that you don't need to play to be part of your club, and the inclusion of committed, loyal, autistic people can only be a benefit to the work of local clubs and indeed team morale. I'm excited to see how these wonderful examples of inclusion will become universal realities through the fruits of this exciting new departure. Let's bring it on. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Really, really well said. I particularly love that line about inclusion not being the same as non-exclusion. Today, SuperValu are launching their Community Includes Everyone campaign, and that includes a new ad campaign that's going on. So Ray is back to tell us a little bit about that.
Thanks, Joanne, and again, thanks to Sandra, Ger and Adam. It's powerful stuff when you hear it all together. As I said, our role in SuperValu is to start conversation and to drive that awareness and understanding of the power of inclusivity and diversity. Our role is also to shine a spotlight on powerful role models for diversity and inclusion in our communities. To achieve this, we'll spend over €1 million on our Bring It On campaign across billboards, bus shelters, social and digital channels, as well as TV. To give you a flavour of this, I'm going to share our new TV advert that's positive, challenging, and with a clear message that we believe that community includes everyone. Featured in the advert are Boyd Say from Westmeath, Shiroz Akram from Mayo, referee David Goff, Martina O'Brien, captain of the Cork Senior Ladies football team, and Conor Duffy, who despite losing a leg in an accident, still plays with his local club, Moat GAA. And finally, Kevin Hanley, autism advocate and Tipperary FM contributor on all things GAA. So let's bring it on. We're going to play this ad twice.
To really get Gaelic football, you need to be of a certain type, and that's not you. Do you want to hear my response? This. All those can't compete like us looks. They're not from here talk. Stop that. They're not the same as us guff, and not built like us excuses. Enough. Bring all the things that make you who you are. To really get Gaelic football, you need to be of a certain type, and that's not you. Do you want to hear my response? This. All those can't compete like us looks. They're not from here talk. Stop that. They're not the same as us guff, and not built like us excuses. Enough. Bring all the things that make you who you are.
Yeah, pretty powerful stuff there. We have a couple of the stars of that ad campaign with us now, and three people from different backgrounds who are very much so involved in the GAA. We have the sports journalist Joanne O'Riordan with us. We have Westmeath footballer Boydu Saya, and we also have All-Ireland referee David Goff with us. First of all, Boydu, you were involved in that, and I know you've told your story quite a bit now at this stage, but for any of the few people who haven't managed to hear it, maybe just tell us a little bit about your background again.
So I came to Ireland on my 8th birthday, arrived in 2004. I'm originally from Liberia, Monrovia, and like at the time when I came over to Ireland, Liberia was probably the poorest country in the world. And so moving to Ireland was, a huge change and huge difference for me. So, I was brought here to kind of live a different life, and I suppose the GAA kind of clung on to me, and I clung on to it as well. So, that's about it.
And it was an immediate thing, wasn't it? Like you were immediately part of the whole community.
Yeah. I was brought into Rosemount National School, and from there, it's a little small area, so the GAA means everything to everyone there. So, I obviously love soccer as well, but, because of the area I was from, I started playing GAA, and, it became a huge part of me, and, huge part of what I like to do, I suppose.
Do you know what's really funny is that despite the fact that you have told your story a bit down through the years, when we had you on the Sunday Game last summer, couldn't get over the reaction that it generated. Did you find that as well, that people were talking to you a lot more about?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people kind of relate to, me, because, there's kids who have the same story as me. They came over when they were young as well. And, like a lot of kids, obviously, the GAA is a big part of their life too, but they just haven't, gone on to play inter-county football. So, it's great to see kids kind of looking up to me as well and wanting to, be just like me. And I didn't have that when I was growing up. I didn't have, that figure that looked like me and, talk like me, and I didn't have that. So, it's great to see little kids, happy, even adults happy to see that as well.
It is, because it struck a chord with you, David, didn't it?
It did. I remember watching the interview that Sunday night, and I remember sending you a message afterwards about how well you handled the interview and allowing the boys to speak so well and to tell their stories, and it was absolutely fantastic. And it's lovely to see diversity and inclusion being celebrated within the GAA rather than something that there's a stigma attached to.
But that's the key, isn't it? And I know that that's one of the things that we all wanted to make sure happened today, that I think you're all probably fed up of telling the hard luck stories and the difficulties, are you?
It's not that we're fed up. They do need to be told, and we do need to have that conversation. But it's so nice that we've moved on in the GA. It's so nice for all of us that we now have a diversity and inclusion officer in the GA who's taking care of all those things for us, that we no longer feel the need to take that stand or put our head above the parapet or to make our stories more known than they already are. And it's such a progressive step from where we were to have someone like Ger within the GA to do this and to stand up for us.
Joanne, you have such a strong connection with GA as well. For how long?
Yeah, definitely all my life. I mean, I was born on the 24th of April 96, and a week after I was out of hospital and my parents had to go see my brother play a county final, so they just whipped me into the buggy and were like, off we go. And everyone was kind of looking at the new baby without limbs, and everyone was like, who's that? And my mom was like, my son is playing, look at him on the pitch. And I was like, oh my God, like everyone look at me. But yeah, no, it's like something that I've always been a part of and something I've incredibly loved. And even though I knew I couldn't play, and everyone used to find it really awkward, being like, oh God, she's got no limbs and she's showing up to training, what do we do with her? But I just wanted to see my brother, like I just wanted to see my siblings and just be a part of like a community, and I suppose just a group where you can just talk to people and hang out and just express yourself in a way that you've never had before.
How quickly did you notice the awkwardness go?
It was definitely when I was like pretty young. I know like at the start, like my dad used to always like reference, you know, thank God you don't play because I know you'd be like mental on the pitch and you'd like shame us all, you know, all that kind of stuff. But I remember my sister used to play with Drumtar ladies football, and my dad was on linesman duty, and I'd always hang out with my dad, and I wanted to be with him and run up and down the line. And my dad was like, if I put you inside my jacket, you can run up and down the line with me. So we looked like a kangaroo, like chasing up and down the pitch. But yeah, I suppose really, it didn't really bother me that I couldn't play, and I think a lot of people thought it did. So they kind of really didn't have me as involved as what I'd like to be. So instead, I suppose, I just kind of pushed my way through, and I just made sure they made sure I was involved rather than sit on the sideline.
So in many ways, it's really the fact that you have the driven personality you have that helped you get there rather than other things.
It's more just I hate being like left behind. I'm very competitive anyways. You know, like my brother would come home and he'd be like, I have an under 14 county medal, and I'd be like, well, I have a ladies all-star, and they're like, you don't even kick a football. You know, we have like constant like competitive arguments about that. But I think it was just, I just wanted to be with them, and I think they would always invite me and have me around the place, that it was just second nature to me to just ask to be like, oh, can I do this? I remember like they had me as water girl, and I made the referee like stop the game until I delivered the water. I think he was sick of me at that stage.
But it sounds, just listening to you, like for you it was community, just you became part of the community and a part of the whole thing.
Yeah, like, and I suppose because my siblings were always there, you know, they were always involved. It was kind of like no one really kind of noticed in a way. You know, I mean, I think they were a little bit awkward when they'd see me watching like my sister Gillian play, because obviously she's, you know, a girl and she was what I could have been, you know, that kind of thing. But in the end, I suppose they kind of noticed I was kind of hanging out with like the PRO and like trying to take notes on the game. And I remember I was watching a rugby game. My dad was like, you're annoying me, go write a match report. And I suppose that's when I found like my love of writing. And I suppose that's when I realized, hey, I can actually be involved in sport, and, you know, I can be, you know, bring the sport to so many people who don't have it. And I think it's just incredible, you know, that you can be a part of something and not have to kick the winning, you know, ball in a county final. As great and all as that is, but, you know, it's as nice to be on the sideline as well.
I don't know about you, Boydoo, but when I'm listening to Joanne, I do draw comparisons with you about your personality allowed you kind of get involved, but at the same time, the way the community as a whole took you in.
Yeah, the community is probably the biggest thing for me, you know. Like imagine being like the only black kid coming into a little small area where they've never seen black people before, you know, and like they really took me on, they really made me their own. And, you know, I was fortunate enough to get into the GA because of my cousins and my grandfather, and everyone loved the GA so much, so it made it a lot easier for me. And, you know, the whole community as well kind of just took me on as their own, you know.
The fact you weren't bad probably helped as well.
Yeah, it helped. I wasn't always that good, you know. I was like it took a while to get good at it, but it took a long time to get good at it. Actually, I was the one stuck in goals that couldn't kick the ball. So
I thought it was all about kickouts.
I know. I had to work hard at, you know, the craft and try to get as best I can. You know, as you said, I'm competitive as hell as well. So I didn't want anyone to be better than me. So it made it a lot easier.
I didn't know you were in goal initially.
I was in goals at like under 12s and 13 when I was younger.
And you were dying to get out.
I was dying to get out. Like, who wants to be in goals? I don't know.
Stephen Cluxton revolution hadn't hit yet.
I suppose. Like, he didn't. He was coming up then. So everyone wanted to be outfield at that stage. So I didn't want to be in goals.
Where did you play actually, David, when you were playing?
I played cornerback, a bit like himself, yeah. I was probably a little bit cleaner than he was.
Oh, the digs are in. He's got your cards marked already.
But yeah, I played cornerback with the club, and it was probably just my brother played as well. We're Irish twins. There's only 11 months between us, so we always played on the same team growing up together, and loved playing Gaelic football. It was a sad day when I had to walk away from it to take up the whistle.
Who was better?
Oh, me, definitely, yeah. No,
Where
definitely.
does he...
No, my brother played the county, so that I never made that. Sean Boylan told me I was too small, so...
if Sean Boylan says that, that would break your heart, wouldn't it?
It did.
When I was looking at the timeline involving you, I can't believe how short it actually was. When you look at from 2015, when you're essentially locked outside the gates because you want to have your rainbow ribbons around your wrist, to then 2019... you and Valerie are there, and I think Donal Logue as well, as representing the GAA in Pride. That's a very short space of time for that sort of change.
It happened very, very quickly. And I know you're saying from 2015 to 2019, there was probably 3 barren years in there as well, where I was afraid to say anything, having received such a slap on the wrist after 2015. And it just took a chance meeting with Valerie Mulcahy at a radio studio in Dublin City, where we kind of just said, we need to go back to the GAA and move this on. It has, grown so much. The country has changed since 2015. And I suppose the GAA is representative of Irish society. It kind of permeates every level of Irish society. And, we felt that the GAA membership had changed. We just needed to bring the association at the highest level with us. And when we met John Horn, and he was the biggest catalyst for this change because he was a secondary school principal. I suppose he knew about LGBT issues within his own school. He saw the importance of diversity and inclusion. And making that presidential decision, and that was key. It was never backed by anybody inside the stadium. He stood on his own 2 feet and granted us permission to walk in the Pride Parade, which was a magnificent occasion for us in June 2019. It was so emotional. I remember meeting Valerie on the morning, and the two of us just getting overly emotional because of what we were about to do, and it was a fantastic day.
And when you say he didn't have any backing from the GAA, by that you more mean that he just stood on his own? He didn't go looking for backing?
No, he never went to any management committees or Ard Corlia or anything inside the association. It was one of the few, if only, presidential decisions that have ever been made in the GAA, and he didn't take anyone else's backing. He just went with it himself.
And was it all positive reaction?
Not initially. There was difficult conversations. There were people who chose not to speak to us on the morning of Pride, who would have walked past us here in the stadium, who found just the rainbow flags and the jerseys a little bit too much to take. But thankfully that's changed, and we brought those people.
They blanked you?
Yeah, that would have happened. But thankfully it's changed since now, and they're much more inclusive and diverse than they were.
So there's been an even greater change within just the 2 years since then?
Yeah, a huge change, and that's down to Ger and the work and the visibility, the huge amount of visibility that there is now, and I suppose the Rainbow Laces campaign and various things like Pride and such a positive attitude and I suppose media outcome in relation to the GAA walking in Pride. It really was the last greatest organisation in the country to walk in the Pride Parade.
Wow. Is it strange for you listening to this? Because I know you wrote this gorgeous piece about your brother and the struggles that because David was so upfront when he went on the Late Late, and he spoke about his difficulties when he was coming out, not just to his family, but to his teammates. And your brother seemed to have even more difficulties, because it almost sounded like he never got that chance to come out to teammates. He'd just abandoned it.
Yeah, I suppose he just kind of felt really awkward about the whole thing. I suppose he knew he was different. He'd kind of joke himself that, when all the lads would be out at Cullen Disco, as our local disco, he'd have to, get with a girl and, he'd be kind of seen as lads. And I suppose he kind of knew he didn't really want that. And he just kind of walked away off his own back, because he kind of realised that if he did more drama and stuff, he'd have stood out. And I suppose, the GAA wasn't at that time. This was the 80s and 90s. So this wasn't a time where I don't even think homosexuality was actually legal at that time, actually, to be honest. But yeah, and he just felt he just had to walk away. And, even though it's something he regrets, I think he's happy to still be involved in some shape or form, following it through me or, coming to games and different things like that. And as he would say, it's just so great to see that visibility and to have role models for young people, growing up like David, just to be if David can reach, the high point of his career, then I can do that too. And I think that's what everyone kind of wants. I know Boydie touched on as well. You just want someone who looks like you, or someone who's had the same story as you, so you can point and be like, yeah, actually, even though they hopped all the hurdles, I can hop them too, and I can follow their paths.
Yeah, he was a good footballer though, wasn't he?
He'd like to think he was.
Okay, that's fair.
The other brothers. He's actually the only one with an underage medal, and it kills the other brothers like more than anything on the planet.
Boydu, for you again, family plays a big key. But going forward, like, is it a surprise that there aren't more visibly noticeable number of people from different ethnic backgrounds playing high-level Gaelic games at this stage?
You see, the thing is, I think you notice it a lot more underage. You notice it a lot more coming from under 21s and even minor and younger. It's when it's my age that it's not noticeable. You know, like when I came on, I was the only one. You know, the only black person playing on the team. Actually, there was 3 of us with Westmeath, which is rare. And then the rest of the country, there was no one else. But, you know, it's moving on. It's moving on a lot now. You know, you can really see the changes, and it's great to see as well. And, you know, like, it's something that I'm like delighted to see, you know. And it wasn't always, like all good stuff. Like, you know, me growing up as well, I got a lot of negative comments, and I got a lot of like, abuse, like, and I don't like to put it that way, but it was abuse.
Well, it is abuse, yeah.
Yeah, you know, so, you know, I kind of, you know, it's stuff you get that really wants you not to continue. And I know lads that are in the same boat as me that, you know, quit playing it because they got so much of it. And, you know, it's, you know, like, it's great to see like kids now not getting it as much as when I was growing up getting it. And I know for a fact that, you know, people didn't continue the sports because they got so much of it.
And when you say so much of it, are you talking about teammates? You're talking about opponents? You're talking about people watching in the stands? Everything?
Yeah, it's everything. You know, like you wouldn't get it as much from teammates. You get it from other players. You get it from them, and you get it from the crowd. A lot from the crowd. But you know, I've noticed over the years that that's changing so much, and people are really respecting, you know, different cultures playing the sport and really opening up to that as well. You know, which is great.
It's lovely to hear you say, actually, that there are loads of different backgrounds coming through and that you can see it at underage. And are there things being put in place? We hear about what the work is Gerard's doing to make sure that they continue with it and that they don't drop out for all these awful reasons.
Yeah, it's great. You know, like there is stuff being put in place. There is Cool Camp's been around for a long time, but they're trying to bring it out there more and going over to these communities and getting them involved more, and, you know, setting times for them to come out. You know, like I was talking to one of the guys downstairs, and they were saying, like, you know, like different cultures have different like religious beliefs, and some people can't come out on a Saturday or a Sunday. And it's great to see like the GAA kind of stepping forward and making stuff on different days for them to suit other people as well, which is great. And that's all inclusion as well. Get them out. It doesn't have to be a Sunday. It can be whatever day they want, you know.
Yeah, no, that is brilliant. It brings me to you, actually, David, because I wanted to ask you the exact same question. Why do we see so few men who are openly gay within sport? Never mind within the GAA, within sport.
It's a frightening thought to think that, you know, most people would struggle at the moment to name on 5 fingers 5 out male gay elite sports people, not only in Ireland but in the world. I mean, most people might know Nigel Owens and Gareth Thomas. They might talk about Tom Daly, and they're going to struggle after that, and they really are going to struggle.
And remember, Gareth Thomas only did it once he'd retired.
Only when he retired, yeah. And look at the media fallout there has been for him since. And it is because of personalities, first of all. So not everyone wants the intense media scrutiny or has the ability to put up with that. Certainly, I've been very fortunate with the Irish media, but I would say that the English media wouldn't be as kind as the Irish media and media around the world. But we're moving in the right direction. But still, we don't have, well, certainly not in the GAA, we're not professional. But if you were to think of a professional footballer in the Premiership, that's his profession, that's his livelihood, that's where he makes his money. Is he going to be a desirable candidate for a manager if he's been sold on? Is his value going to drop because he's gay, because the manager perceives that the dressing room culture is going to have to change as a result of him? And it presents different problems for them. And what I found as well when I came out, I took advice from the wrong people. And certainly within the association, when they didn't want me to tell my story, they felt that it might affect my refereeing career and I'd never get to referee that All-Ireland final. And maybe the agents and managers who are from the, you know, heterosexual community give the wrong advice to the person who should be getting advice from someone in the homosexual community.
Do you think they were doing that from a good place in that they were fearful of the light that was going to be shone upon you, or do you think there was something else behind it?
No, I'd say they were more worried for me. They could see my potential as a referee, and the conversation was around, how this is going to affect your performances. There's going to be a lot of media attention now put on you. Is it going to change who you are as a referee? Is it going to affect your performances going forward? And is that going to ultimately prevent you from getting to where you want to be to referee the All-Ireland final? Fortunately enough, I knew the kind of character I was and the strength I had, and the friends and family who were there to back me up the whole way through this process. And I never felt that my sexuality was going to stop me from performing on that pitch out there as well as anybody else.
It must have been so hard to know when you're receiving the bad advice from a place where it should be the right advice, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, it was difficult because you're reaching out hoping for a little bit of support, and I suppose a huge amount of self-confidence comes from self-acceptance. And at the time, I would have had to speak to my school as well, because I was working illegally then as a teacher. I was contravening the Catholic ethos of the school. So this was all going on in the background, and it was a lot to take on. And when you reached out for that support and were hoping to get the positive support back, it just wasn't there at the time. But it was coming from a good place.
Did you ever have anything like that? People advising you in strange ways where they didn't actually quite understand what was going on?
Yeah, it's like, it was difficult. It was difficult for me if I'm getting abused, who to go to. It was trying to figure out who do you talk to? Do you talk to the manager? Do you talk to your players? And
did you feel like others didn't understand or couldn't understand?
No, a lot of them didn't understand. They're just like, oh, come on, just brush it off. It's grand.
Really?
You can get over it. It's fine. They're only taking the mick or whatever. And it's, you just have to kind of, like, I for a long time I had to just take it on the chin and just be like, okay, it's grand, I'll forget about it or whatever. But it's when you start growing up and you realize, geez, this is wrong. It's not right. And then you find people to talk to. You find your family, your friends, and you just have the right friends around you that you can actually be honest to and talk to, and they give you the right advice. You're right. You do get the wrong advice from people. Some people just tell you, get over it, you'll be fine. And you kind of take that on, but it's the wrong thing too. You need to talk about it, you need to sort it out. So.
That must be infuriating.
It is infuriating, but, luckily I'm a strong person, so, I won't let it kind of bog me down. I have the right people around me to talk about that.
I know it's difficult kind of talk when you're talking about yourselves with this, but in many ways you're up there as being the first. So you are going to be the ones who are going to have to be giving the advice. How difficult is that, and how easy is it to go the wrong way in so many ways?
Yeah, it's very tricky. Especially, the community as vast as, people with disabilities. There's so many, just corners of that society, that you wouldn't necessarily even know about. I remember going over to Manchester City and they were setting up an autism unit, and I was like, this is great. And I remember some autism charity was like, no, it's not that great, they haven't done a great job. And I was like, oh right, who am I to come in on behalf of all people with disabilities, 250,000, a quarter of the global population, and raise my little hand and be like, well, it works for me, so it must be fine for everyone else. And I think that's a category a lot of people would fall into as well, with people with disabilities, I'm sure with other minorities as well. But yeah, I would just say, I suppose, for a lot of people, my only advice is, it's nice if people clap me for jumping a hurdle, but I'd like those people who are clapping me to also help me remove the hurdle along the way, just because it's inspiring to see someone in Croke Park without limbs, reporting on a game. Yeah, but make sure that another person with no limbs or with another disability can come along the line and follow the same career as I have as well.
And can you see the stepping stones, or at least the early stepping stones, in place for that to be the case?
Yeah, definitely. A lot of people are just in a situation where they're like, who am I to tell you, what you need? Joanne will tell us what we need. And I obviously have grown up with a family of 5, so I know how to tell people what I need, and I'm very vocal about it. But, it is great to see the foundations are being laid, and I think we have acknowledged, all these minorities exist. I suppose it's how we can put the mix together and actually make them work will actually define what we're like in the future, I think.
And for each of you, do you think SuperValu targeting 30% increase by 2025, like that is very, very ambitious. How close do you think they can get to that?
Yeah, like it's ambitious, but you know, there's no shame in trying to be ambitious. You know, it is something that we should definitely try to target, and it's something, you know, as I always say, even from a business point of view, are you going to turn down money? Are you going to turn down 30% wallets? You know, that doesn't make sense from a business point of view. And I think it's ambitious, but they should be applauded, and I think they should be encouraged and helped along the way in order to do. And it's great to have events like today, to have us, you know, coming on to represent these different groups, but to also ask these questions, raise awareness, and to get people thinking.
From what you say, Boydoo, it sounds like it's already, from an ethnic background point of view, that we're already heading towards that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, as you said, it's, you know, it's great. It's great to see like SuperValu getting involved and everyone getting involved as well. And it is helping. It is working. Hopefully, you know, hopefully, in the long term, we don't have to come back and talk about this again. It can just be, you know, just be done. Do you know what I mean?
And you won't be on your own as well, yeah. David, I would imagine, would be a hope.
Hopefully not. And Joanne talks about removing hurdles. It's events like this and campaigns like this that SuperValu are running that remove those hurdles for us, so that we're not going to have to jump over them in the future. And I'm hopeful that in the next couple of years that we will move on. And with the help of SuperValu, it is an ambitious target, there's no doubt about it, but it will be great if they hit it. And if not, they will do so much good along the way in trying to reach that target.
Can we put you on the spot and ask you about, we know that Westmeath didn't have on paper the greatest of league campaigns, but anybody who's spoken about your performances have suggested there's been plenty of promise there.
No, yeah, I think we're kind of hard done by this year, but all our games we lost by like a point or 2 points, and even against Mayo we lost by 3 points. It was close games, but I know we're getting relegated, but I think we just have to leave the league behind. Focus a lot more on the championship now. I know we have the dubs to worry about in Leinster, but yeah, we're going to have to leave that league behind and try to come back up next year.
Everybody has the dub story about that. That's just the way it is. Thank you all so much for being part of this today. Thank you to David, to Boydoo, to Joanne as well. And thank you to all of you, wherever you are, being part of it as well. SuperValu community includes everyone. Don't forget to keep on tweeting using the hashtag #BringItOn. And if you do have any of those queries, it is to supervalu@drury.ie. Enjoy the summer and have a great rest of the day. Bye-bye.